Ladies? Ladies? Non-traditional mortgages. Non-traditional mortgages. Gets a little bit easier after this part, where we're done up with the hard part, the federal part. So this stuff is either stuff you want to know, or you probably know it a little bit because you're a little bit in the industry. It's a lot of terms, definition, things you need to know. So it goes a little bit easier the rest of the class. Non-traditional mortgages. The definition of a non-traditional mortgage. According to the SAFE Act, because they're going to ask you according to what law? According to the SAFE Act, the definition of a non-traditional mortgage is anything, highlight anything, other than a 30-year fix. So if a non-traditional mortgage is anything other than a 30-year fix, what does that make a traditional mortgage? A 30-year fixed. That's what they want you to know. There's two categories, two boxes. One box says traditional. One box says non-traditional. Traditional, 30-year fix. Non-traditional, any and everything else. According to who? The SAFE Act. Doesn't mean good or bad. It just means traditional, 30-year fix. Non-traditional, anything else, any other kind of mortgage. They're trying to get you back to thinking the normal, everyday, traditional thing to do is a 30-year fix. That's why they call it a traditional mortgage. According to what law? The SAFE Act. Conforming loans, also called conventional sometimes, but conforming loans meet the standards of Fannie and Freddie. It conforms to the guidelines or the standards of who? Fannie and Freddie. Non-conforming loans do not meet the standards of who? Fannie and Freddie. So conforming loans meet the standards of Fannie and Freddie so they can be sold on the secondary market. Primary market is where we as people get loans. Secondary market is where lenders sell loans to one another. If it conforms to the standards of Fannie and Freddie, it can be sold on the secondary market. If it does not conform to the standards of Fannie and Freddie, it cannot be sold on the secondary market. It usually has to do with the size. That's why another name for non-conforming loans, jumbo loans. Jumbo loans. Subprime loans, what do you need to know about those? They allow more risk than prime loans. Highlight where I put allow more risk. Subprime loans allow more risk than prime loans. Secondary financing, when the borrower gets money from another source other than the primary. Anyone else is secondary. Secondary financing, when the buyer borrows money from another source other than the primary. Everybody else comes second. They're secondary. Mortgage terms. Mortgage terms. You have to know the difference between these. Fixed. What does that mean? It means the payment is fixed. It's not going to change. Interest only. Another name for interest only is straight note because you're paying straight interest. All you're paying is interest. Interest only loan, also known as a straight note. Adjustable rate mortgage, ARM. Adjustable rate mortgage, at some point the rate is going to adjust. Make sure you understand the difference between a fixed, interest only, and an adjustable. Notes, also known as promissory notes. Don't get it wrong just because they said the note. A note and a promissory note, that's the same thing. There are four that you need to know about. Straight note, which is the same as an interest only. A straight note is the same as interest only, only paying interest. A partially amortized note. That means it has a balloon payment. What type of promissory note has a balloon payment? A partially amortized loan. Negative AM. The monthly payment was not sufficient to cover the interest. They're going to ask you, what type of loan is it that you make a payment every month, but the balance still grows? That would be negative AM, negative amortization. The payment wasn't enough to cover all the interest, so they keep adding it to the back of the loan. Fully amortized. Now, another name for fully amortized loan is a self-liquidating loan. Another name for fully amortized, self-liquidating loan. They're going to ask you, what type of loan is it? that the borrower makes a payment every month and for 30 years, and at the end of the 30 years, the whole thing is paid off. It liquidated itself. It paid off itself. That's fully amortized. So know the difference between straight, partially amortized negative, and a fully amortized loan. Make sure you know that a partially amortized loan is the one that has a balloon payment. Make sure you know that another name for fully amortized is self-liquidating. Acceleration clause versus alienation clause. People get these mixed up all the time. I'm going to show you how I remember it, and hopefully you'll be like me and you'll never forget it after this. The difference between acceleration clause and alienation clause. I choose to focus on acceleration clause because when I think of acceleration clause, I think of an accelerator in a car. When I step on the accelerator, what does it do? This is my definition of acceleration clause. Write it down if you like, and then I'll go through theirs. Acceleration clause. Speeds up, steps on the gas. Speeds up when the payment is due because of default. Acceleration clause speeds up when the payment is due because of default. This is their definition. Gives the lender the right to declare the entire balance due immediately. Highlight immediately. We want all the money now. Why? Because of borrower default. Highlight default. In order for it to be acceleration, there always have to be two things. Immediate and default. Immediate and default. We want all the money now because you're 60 days late, 90 days late, 100 days late. That doesn't matter. For it to be acceleration, immediate and default. If they want all the money for any other reason besides default, it's not acceleration. For it to be acceleration, immediate and default. We want all the money now because you're late. Acceleration clause. They stepped on the gas. They speed up when they want the money. But why did they do that? Because you're late. Now, alienation clause gives the lender the right, stated rights, when there is a transfer of ownership. Highlight transfer of ownership. You transferred who owned it. Another name for alienation is due on sale. So you sold it, you deeded it, you gave it away, you gifted it away, you quit claimed it. Whatever you did, you transferred the ownership. That's what makes it alienation clause. Transfer of ownership. Has nothing to do with being late or any of that. So make sure you clearly understand the difference between acceleration clause and alienation clause. Adjustable rate mortgage. ARM. Adjustable rate mortgage. There's some components that you need to know. Adjustable rate mortgage. It has three parts. You have to know what the three parts are. The index, the margin, and the rate. The index plus the margin equals the rate. The index plus the margin equals the rate. You need to know the index is the part that goes up and down. That's what makes it adjust. It's tied to things like coffee, cozy, LIBOR, prime. You don't need to know any of those for the test. You just need to know what part goes up and down, what part makes it adjust. The index is the part that makes it go up and down. The margin stays the same for the life of the loan. The margin is actually the profit that the bank makes. But the index plus the margin equals the rate. Index goes up and down. Margin stays the same for the life of the loan. Buy downs. What are buy downs? Discount points paid to get a lower rate. The term buy down and the term discount points mean the same thing. Buy downs are discount points paid to get a lower rate. So I got a 6%. How many points can I pay to get it to 5% or 4%? Some lenders offer discount points, money that you can pay up front to get a lower rate. Those are called buy downs or discount points. You need to know that discount points are based on the loan amount, 1% of the loan amount. And the reason why that's important is that sometimes they're going to give you the sales price, the appraised value, and the loan amount. And they'll say calculate 3 points. Well, which one of those amounts do you calculate the points on? The loan amount. Points are always calculated based on the loan amount. reverse mortgage. What do you need to know about a reverse mortgage? Well, the bar has to be at least 62. Most people know that. For a reverse mortgage, the bar has to be at least 62. Then they're going to ask you in a reverse mortgage what increases and what decreases. The balance of the loan rises, the equity shrinks. In a reverse mortgage, the balance of the loan rises, the equity shrinks. What is a HECM? Make sure you know that term. Highlight that, H-E-C-M. HECM, what does that stand for? Home Equity Conversion Mortgage. That's FHA's name for their reverse mortgage. Home Equity Conversion Mortgage, HECM. It's an FHA reverse mortgage. And tenure, what does it mean when the bar is getting their money the tenure method? Tenure simply means payment over time. They don't want it in a lump sum. They want the tenure method. They want to get a monthly check instead of make a monthly payment. They chose the tenure option. Now, when is a reverse mortgage over? Or when does it go away? What would make it go away? There's 4 reasons. Let's go back here. 4 reasons. The first one, if the bar passes away, the reverse mortgage goes away. If the bar sells the home, the reverse mortgage is over. If the bar ceases to live in the property for 12 consecutive months, highlight consecutive or underline consecutive. If the bar ceases to live in the property for 12 consecutive months, the reverse mortgage is over. Sometimes you have kids my age that tell the parents, hey, mom, dad, get a reverse mortgage. You got a lot of equity. Why are you struggling to pay your bills, buy your medicine, things of that nature when you have all this equity in this house? Get a reverse mortgage and you can get a monthly check instead of make a monthly payment. Heck, I'll even move in with you and help out. So they do that and they move in with the parents. They get a reverse mortgage. They're getting a monthly check and then they put the parents in the rest home and they're getting the check. If they find out mom and dad haven't been there for 12 consecutive months, then they're going to call the reverse mortgage and it's going to be over. They need to bring them home every now and then for a month or so. Okay? Other than that, they're in violation. Or you have some seniors that are pretty smart. They get a reverse mortgage. They are getting a monthly check. They go stay with their kid and rent out the house. Still fraud. If they find out they haven't been there for 12 consecutive months, then the reverse mortgage is over. You're not supposed to even do it for 1 month. But the question on the test, 12 consecutive months. Or if they don't pay their taxes and insurance, they can take the reverse mortgage away that way as well. So you need to know these 4 ways that a reverse mortgage can be terminated. Either the bar passes away, the bar sells the home, they cease to live in the home for 12 consecutive months, or they don't pay their taxes and insurance, then the lender can take the reverse mortgage away. And then they can have to start paying again. These are some terms that you need to know. So I'm going to have you highlight those. You need to know what a balloon payment is. A balloon payment is, and another name for a balloon payment is partially amortized loan. So make sure you know that another name for balloon payment is partially amortized loan. You need to know what a hybrid arm is. Hybrid. Well, hybrid car, what is that? It can be gas and electric, gas and electric. Well, hybrid mortgage can be fixed and adjustable, fixed and adjustable. Same concept. Bi-weekly mortgage. Bi-weekly mortgage. That's one that's set up where the bar has to make a payment every other week. Not once a month, every other week. So they're going to ask you in a bi-weekly mortgage plan, how many payments are made in a year? 26. Blanket mortgage, highlight exactly this. Covers more than 1 parcel of land. A blanket mortgage covers more than 1 parcel of land. Sometimes you have developers that go out and they buy, land is divided into what's called parcels. And you will have a developer that go out and they buy a whole big lot that maybe consists of several parcels. They don't get a loan on each parcel. They get a blanket mortgage for all of that. And then they may build a house one at a time on each parcel. So a blanket mortgage covers more than 1 parcel of land. A bridge mortgage, it bridges the gap between one loan and another. For example, some banks offer what's called bridge mortgage. Say I'm selling my home to buy another home. but I need the money from the sale of my current home so that I can get the down payment for my new home. And in the perfect world, escrow, everything is working fine. This one sells, I get this money, and I put the down payment on this one. But what if my new house is ready and I need my money now, but my old house is still in escrow? You can go to a bank, and some banks will give you what's called a bridge mortgage, just enough to let you bridge the gap and close that deal. And then when your existing home sell, they get their money back immediately. That's a bridge mortgage, to bridge the gap. A cash out mortgage, also known as a refinance. Cash out mortgage or refinance. Number one, they have to know that they're starting their loan completely over. But more importantly for the test, in order for a bank to do a cash out mortgage, now they have to have what's called a net tangible benefit. Highlight that. They're going to ask you what type of loan must have a net tangible benefit, meaning they're not going to just do it unless it makes sense. You had loan originators that were refinancing people. Hey, we can save you $100, but the closing costs were like $6,000 and $7,000. Was that really beneficial? And then they go back to them the next year. We can save you another $50, another $6,000, $7,000 in closing costs. Nowadays, the CFPB says that there must be a net tangible benefit. Does that really make sense? Is saving that $50 worth $6,000, $7,000 in closing costs? Lenders have to make sure that there is actually a net tangible benefit if it's a refinance. They're going to ask you what kind of loan must have a net tangible benefit, and now you know if it's a cash out refinance. Net tangible benefit. That term only goes with refinances that have cash out. HELOC, home equity line of credit, and home equity loan. You have to know the difference between an open-end and closed-end HELOC or home equity line of credit. What is the difference between an open-end and closed-end? Well, open-end means you can go back and forth and get more money. Closed-end means once you borrow it and you pay it off, that's it. It's over. So open-end, I borrow or I get a HELOC for $20,000. I use 10 of it. Well, now I have $10,000 credit that I can go back and use whenever I want. Closed end, I borrow $10,000, I use 5. I still have to pay the 5, but I can't go back and get another 5. That's closed. Open end is more like a credit card where you can go back and forth. Closed end, you're just paying it off. Do you guys get that? Construction mortgage, another name for construction mortgage that they use on the test, is interim loan. It's just a loan, it's an in-between loan. Construction mortgage is just the loan to buy the material and build the house. It's not the loan on the house. It's just for the construction and the building of the house. You still have to get another loan after that. That's where the takeout loan comes in. That's the permanent financing. Now, people want to use this term, and it's incorrectly. We're going to get a takeout loan to build a house. No. You're going to get a construction loan or an interim loan to build a house. And once it's built, then you're going to get a takeout loan, conventional or FHA or whatever. You're going to get an actual real loan on the house. That's what the takeout loan is. The construction mortgage is not the mortgage on the house. It's just for all the materials, the labor, and everything to actually build the house. Equity participation mortgage. Equity participation mortgage. They may just call it a participation mortgage, or they may call it a SAM, shared appreciation mortgage. What is that? That's a loan where the lender gets a part of your equity when you sell it. You agree with the lender that once you sell this house, you're going to give them back some of the equity that you earned. Well, why would you do that? Well, here's a situation. We had a borrower up in San Diego area. The house was worth, they owed over $1 million, $1,000,001, but it was only worth about $700. They were upside down, like way upside down. And they hadn't made a payment in like 18 months. Well, we worked with Bank of America, and we got Bank of America to forgive over $300,000 and forgive the back payments. So now their new loan is at the $700,000 that they actually owe. So their payments went down dramatically. That was a loan mod. But the deal was Bank of America says, we'll do this for you, But the deal is, whenever you sell this house, we want 5% of the equity when you do that. Equity participation mortgage. Of course they did it. They got to stay in their beautiful San Diego home. Shared appreciation mortgage, equity participation mortgage, when the lender gets to participate or get a part of the equity when you sell the home. Package mortgage, highlight exactly this. A mortgage that includes personal property. Whenever you see the term personal property, they're talking a package mortgage. They're packaging in things like the stainless steel refrigerator, the microwave, the dishwasher. Sometimes you go into model homes where they're showing them and they say, oh, how much is if you include this refrigerator? Oh, we'll package that in. Oh, how much if I want to keep this, these lamps, these things? Those things are not free. They're packaging the price into the loan. That's what a package mortgage is. They're adding in personal property to the whole thing. Wraparound mortgage, highlight exactly this. When an existing loan on a property is retained, so the lender is going to take over your existing loan, not start it over, not refinancing. The existing loan on the property is retained, and the lender gives the borrower a new, larger loan. So I'm going to give you a loan. You have a loan. I'm going to take over that loan and give you a bigger loan. I'm going to wrap the loan that you already have in, and then I'm going to add another 40, 50, 100,000. We're wrapping your old loan into your new loan. You have a completely new loan. But now I took it over. I have your old loan, and when you make a payment, you're just making that one payment. That's what a wraparound loan is. They don't do those a whole lot anymore because it doesn't really make a whole bunch of sense. But it's when an existing loan is retained on the property. They didn't refinance it. They didn't pay it off. It's still there, but they give the borrower a new, larger loan on the property. That's called a wraparound loan. Okay, so that's that section on non-traditional mortgages. So this part is going to be on mortgage loan origination. What you need to know in this particular section.